Hi, this is Bill Ferris and welcome to 5-Minute Photo, and this is your nickel tour of Adobe Lightroom version 5.4. We're just going to take a quick overview of Lightroom and some of its functionality. I have the program open on my desktop, and let's begin with Lightroom's cataloging feature. Now, with Lightroom, when you take new photos, you can import those photos into Lightroom's catalog. And the way the Lightroom catalog works is that once the photo is in the catalog, Lightroom creates a file that points to that photograph, where it lives on your internal hard drive or external hard drive. And as part of the import process, Lightroom can read, say, an SD card that you've installed in your card reader on your computer. And as it imports that file, it will place the file wherever you'd like the file to live. For instance, Lightroom will make a folder in your catalog, and let's take a look at folders I have in mind. I use my external drive called Max as a primary place where my pictures live, and in Max I have folders for each year, and within the year 2014, for instance, I've got photographs taken at various times during this year. So on March 18th of this year, I was at Monument Valley, and these are photographs I've imported to the Lightroom catalog from that day at Monument Valley. While importing the images, Lightroom allows you to assign keywords. For instance, the location. Where was the photograph taken? Arizona, Monument Valley. What subject's being featured in the photograph? Here, let's take a look at this specific photo. And this photo is keyworded with East Mitten, which is this middle butte, Merrick Butte over here on the right, and West Mitten on the left, and it was just about the time that the sun was setting. In addition to keywords, Lightroom can read metadata that your camera body imprints on the image. For instance, what type of camera body was used to make the image? What type of lens? What was the focal length? The aperture setting? What was the ISO? All this metadata that your camera body imprints to a RAW file, Lightroom can read and store with its pointer file for that image in the Lightroom catalog. In addition, you can use Lightroom to map your images. And so, for instance, the 56 photos that I took on this day at Monument Valley are mapped here through Google Earth. Lightroom can either read GPS data your camera has written to that file, or you can physically drag and drop the files onto Google Earth, and Lightroom will then tag the photographs with GPS information in that way. So that's one of the primary functionalities of Lightroom: cataloging your images, keywording them, assigning metadata, GPS information that makes them incredibly searchable. Also, Lightroom allows you to process your images. So when you enter into the develop module with this image, for instance, I could add a graduated filter to darken or brighten the sky. Can adjust certain qualities such as what's my exposure, highlights, shadows, blacks and whites, the saturation of colors. If there's dust on the sensor, I can apply a spot removal tool and take care of that. In Lightroom, you can do a lot of the kind of image processing that you would normally do, for instance, in Photoshop or Photoshop Elements. So, in a nutshell, after having used Lightroom for about 9 months, I would say this: it is an all-encompassing photography management tool. Catalog your photos, keyword them to make them searchable, process your photos. And here's one more tool you can use. Lightroom has some powerful publishing services. You don't need to make copies of your photographs to work in Lightroom. In fact, when you process files, it's non-destructive. Lightroom doesn't make changes to the original RAW files or JPEGs that you work with. Lightroom creates a file that tells your computer how to manipulate that file should you want to make a print, or should you want to make a second copy of that image, or should you want to publish it to Facebook or Flickr or Photo Shelter for your gallery where you sell photographs, or Google+. And so from start to finish, from the moment you take that photograph to the moment you publish that photograph or to share it with your friends through social media, Lightroom is a tool that allows you to do all of that. Well, thank you for your time. I'm Bill Ferris, and I'll see you next time on 5 Minute Photo.